Hello! I'll be talking about ExpressLRS again today, but slightly different than what's normal because ExpressLRS is absolutely fantastic if you're a quad flyer. It's built around quads really, and it's going to work really nicely. If you're fixed wing, it's a little bit different. For wings and stuff with a flight controller, it's going to work great. If you've got a more complicated model and you want more than 5 full range channels, you're going to struggle a little bit more. And if you've got some sort of old legacy planes, perhaps you're a guy that likes to fly line of sight, but you've just bought a radio, you're liking how ExpressLRS works, but it doesn't really translate through very well. And whilst we can't get around the problem of not having an enormous number of full range channels, like if you've got a complicated glide that needs like 14 channels and all sorts of mixing, we can, however, do something now. And that's the product I've got today. This is from HappyModel and was very kindly sent by my friend Gaff from YourFPV. Check his store out down below. And this is called the 2D20037, which is a really catchy name. What it essentially is a little ExpressLRS receiver which will take in your CRSF signal and put out 5 channels of PWM, so you can just plug them straight into some servos and go from there, or hopefully. So I've got this plane here. It doesn't have a flight controller. For a long time it was sort of all-in-one kit that came with its own radio and was okay, and I put a little all-in-one FPV camera on it one time, but I thought this is a good time to shove ExpressLRS on this, maybe put a little camera on board and see what you got. But first off, let's have a look inside this package, see what you get, and then we'll try and convert this plane up and we'll go and fly it. Okay, so here's what's in the little bag. Not much to it. We get some HappyModel stickers so you can stick them to things. We get some pin headers, happily colour-coded, so you know which one's ground, which one's 5V and which one's signal. And then we've got the actual receiver itself. Obviously we can put our pin headers in, and that's what I'm going to be doing. There's apparently a Wi-Fi chip on this, if I'm reading correctly, the documentation, and you've also got your choice of antennas. So I guess depending how deep you want to bury your receiver, you can have your antenna coming out further as you like. I did have a quick look on the firmware for this, and it's no different from the regular ELRS receivers that HappyModel have. So I'm guessing what we'll find is channel 1 is just going to be a 1-bit channel, essentially on or off, because it's the arming switch, and then we should have the full range of the other 4 channels. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically install these, solder these in place, and then shove it on a plane. And here's my plane of choice, which doesn't fit in the frame. It's this guy. It's a traditional 4-channel plane. I have had FPV on it before, just like an all-in-one unit here. I think I basically had a battery and the all-in-one camera VTX there. This time I'd at least like to hook up a camera that can read battery voltage, and I know how long I've got, and that way I know how long I can stay in the air for at least. But yeah, this is just a very basic, it's got a basic I think 6-channel receiver in. It only uses 4 of the channels. There's no flight control or anything like that, very much a manual thing, and it's kind of what I envisage people using this for. I mean, they might be using things FPV wings if they don't have iNav or something like that, or they might be using it on their line of sight planes, just so you know you don't have to fiddle about using different radios and different bits. But anyway, let's get this built up and installed, and I'll think about what I'm going to put in here for a camera and stuff. Okay, so I put that receiver in. You can see we've got our channels 1 to 4 here, and I mistakenly said in the intro that channel 1 is the arming switch, and of course it's aux1 is the arming switch. It's channel 5, so the first 4 channels are the full range ones. You see we've got channel 5 there not doing anything. I've put the FPV stuff on, which is this stuff here. I haven't tested that out yet because what I want to do is get this flashed so I can go ahead and bind to it without, you know, having to use the bind button and all that normal sort of thing. So let's look at that next. Okay, so the Wi-Fi is connected to the computer, and I was assuming this was running the HappyModel 2.4, but it's not. It's a HappyModel receiver, but it's running the DIY 2400RX PWM firmware, and it's at the moment running 20X maintenance. So yeah, we should definitely update that one, I assume with the same version or the same type of firmware. It might be at some point that when we go to HappyModel 2.4, it does have one of the receivers
specifically for this, but right now I'm going to go to DIY 2.4 and use the same thing that it's running, which is this one. So I'm not going to do anything differently. Obviously I'm going to flash via Wi-Fi. Everything else is the same. I'll have to find out exactly what's different about the firmware, because perhaps something is different about which channels do what. We'll check that out. Anyway, let's build and flash this. Okay, well that says it's happy, and when I connect back into the Wi-Fi it now says it's running 220. Okay, good news. Let's plug everything in and see what happens. One thing I forgot to mention, didn't think about at first, is what happens in the event of failsafe. Normally with the old style FreeSky receivers, you'd have a button that you could press, and that would basically remember where your positions are for failsafing. And this doesn't have a button, but if you connect to the Wi-Fi access point, then basically it says in the event of failsafe you can set where you want each of your channels, and what we've effectively got there is midpoint on channels 1, 2 and 4 and throttle off. Now depending how your plane flies, what you might want to do is change your rudder so it circles slightly, so you'd potentially get the signal back, but it kind of depends how your model flies. Sometimes just putting a little bit of left or right in equals spiraling down to the ground, so play with it as you like, but it is there if you need it. So what I've gone ahead and done on this plane, put it all back together now. We've got the antenna coming out there, we've got the FPV system on here. This is really for a quad, you can see the mounting holes, but a bit of tape and it goes anywhere. Got this Foxeer camera, and the reason I've got that is because I've got another little cable coming out from the battery, so that should tell me the voltage on screen. And if we look at here, this is the live picture. Hello, that's my hand. You can see we've got 7 volts going through. Just a little 2S plane, this one. And obviously I wanted to connect this up just to make sure that we've got ailerons, we've got elevator, we've got our rudder, and we've got throttle. So yeah, looks like we're good to go and test it at the field. So let's see how it flies. Hello, out at the field with the little Volantex plane ready to go there. It is a lovely day. It is still very cold, which makes me worry about the little tiny 450 milliamp battery I'm using this, but not as much as my runway, which is a bit lacking, and I've just found that I didn't bring up a prop. So hopefully I'll be able to take off without breaking this, and we're going to be flying with the Zorro. So let's give it a go. Okay, well I guess we'll film this in case it goes probably wrong. We seem to have surfaces going. Got full rates on at the moment. I have got a switch so I can do like a 50 and 25% rate. What's 75% and 50, I think. Okay, got a picture. Hopefully it will get in the air fairly quickly and the whole runway thing won't matter. I've got my antenna vertically polarized. Alrighty, and I may have to use the trim switches, which are here. And where's the other one? Oh, they're in the center. Okay. Right, let's give this a try. Fingers crossed it gets up in the air. It did not. Alright, let's give it a chuck. No, that did not go very well. Wheel down. Lack of power going on there. But let's just give it another go. Not much wind. Yeah, it's not a great deal of power from this guy. And it needs trimming down. And he's coming back. Other than that, we seem to be flying alright. It's obviously not going to be a very pretty landing, but it seems to be flying alright. Let's see if we can do a bit of a pass. Like I said, it's only a 2S battery. There's really not much in it. Of course, I've got no clue what sort of signal we're getting, but bearing in mind we've got a vertically polarized antenna, you know, we're a couple of 100 meters away most, I think we should be doing all right. So this should be here, getting a lovely picture from the FPV camera. Seems all right once it's in the air. I'm quite happy to have full rates though. I mean, I'm not having to use much of the control, but I'm kind of used to kind of being quite delicate with controls from flying quads. You know, you don't make massive movements unless you're you know, going into big rolls and loops and stuff. There's me, there's my shadow. Oh, it's not it's not going too bad. So I just ditched it into the ground several times. We got into wind here. It does want to, it still wants to go upwards a little bit. Have I got my fan on? Steaming up a little bit. Because range wise I'm not particularly bothered. So end of this field's about 500 meters. Seems absolutely fine. I think unfortunately this could be a one flight situation depending how it lands, because odds on it's gonna bugger up the prop when we come back down. Let me try going a bit higher. Ooh, 6.6 there. It didn't want to give me much. I've got to remember we're on a 2S here, so we're already dipping slightly dangerously low, but I'm just coming back off the throttle slightly. Feels like about 50%-ish. It's recovering slightly. Just wanted to get a little bit more height. Don't think I'm actually going anywhere. I'm going somewhere very, very slowly. How's this thing glide if I power off all the way? Oh, it really wants to drop the nose. I think we're a little bit nose heavy. I was a bit worried we might be tail heavy. So a little bit nose heavy is not the worst thing ever. I think we were just out of trim, essentially. Yeah, well, certainly the receiver's holding up, not a problem there. Got a bit of misting up on my goggles. Under about 50% throttle. Not got much more in at this little battery. Weirdly, when I was looking for planes to use, this one was sort of the obvious one because it was full channel. I had a bunch of wings, but I figured I might as well use all 4 of the full range channels, because that might be what a lot of line of sight guys want there. Oh, I really do love the Rush FPV VTXs. They're so clean on the signal. Not that there's an awful lot of voltage going around, of course. We're talking a little 2S. The ESC in this is only like 10 amps. Ooh, we're at 6.6. We're going to have to come around for a landing. This is going to be interesting. We're definitely going to hit the nose. that's really nose heavy. It really did stall there. Shall we see if it's still flyable? Hey, the prop's still on. We'll get another battery out of that, despite it having zero. Well, one wheel. Not quite gets you in the air, but yeah, that was all right. I got a slightly bigger 550 battery. I'll see if I can squeeze that in, and we'll do another one. And so I flew another 2 batteries after that, and you'll be pleased to hear that my takeoffs were a lot better. Managed to throw at the right angle, get the trim right, that was all the things, and get on the sticks a little bit quicker. And I just did much the same. Max distance was around 500 meters. That's as comfortable as I'm going, really. And I did some things like, could it roll? And my goodness, it is a slow roll rate. But it's lots of fun to fly kind of slow and low. This sort of plane's pretty easy. So I'm trying to do things like get through this gate, which would have been a lot easier if that gate hadn't been sticking out there. But yeah, the ease that you can fly pretty low is nice. Anyway, the landings, not so hot. And I possibly hit my foot on this one, but I did notice something while I was flying those 2 batteries. Okay, I'd say that was successful. You notice I took the landing gear off since last time, and the prop survived that landing again. Hooray! I would say I made a mistake with the setup of this one. What I did is, because I wanted to put the antenna vertically polarized, is pop it there. And I was sneaking a look, just popping my goggles up and having a look. And I could see that we were getting, you know, a good link quality one side, but it would drop on the other. So when I was out over in that field, it got down to like 70 something, and I was thinking, why is that? Now I was coming round to come back, flying this way, it jumped back up again. So obviously when I'm going that way, something is blocking it. So that's what I need there, is just have it poking out the top a bit more. But it still flies, and it's a good little fun plane. Well, here we are, and here's the plane. Put its wheels back on. Surprisingly, this is the only plane I have with landing gear, because where I fly, I can never land anywhere. It's just like clonk and plop. I think when I first flew this, there was a little bit of stretch of sort of dirt where I could just about have enough room to take off. But I've never ever landed this successfully, where it just comes down and does that. It always does that. Anyway, as mentioned, the little receiver worked really well. The only problem, as I mentioned there, and this is, I only got this because I put the telemetry on the radio and I just lifted the goggles to have a look down. When I was having the antenna on the opposite side of me, obviously there's a battery and an ESC and a bunch of servos in there, and that, it seemingly can block that signal. So I think, as I said, use the bigger one and just raise it up. Then at least we're always, hopefully, got a better line there. But I didn't have any problems with failsafe or anything. As I said, it was only at about 500 meters. But yeah, everything worked well. I mean, in the ideal world, of course, I'd love to have an ExpressLRS receiver with the option of having 8 or 10 channels full range at the expense of latency. When we're in this sort of plane, we don't need 500 hertz signal. We have physical servos to move up and down, and you know, they're not particularly fast, nor do they have to be particularly fast. But you know, this is down to ExpressLRS. We can't really whinge about it. We've got a bunch of people dedicated to developing the software in these, and they're making amazing progress. And of course, they're not getting paid anything, and we're just reaping the benefits. So let's hope it happens. But if it doesn't, at least we've got something for your basic 4-channel plane that hasn't got a flight control in. Of course, if you're going to put a flight control in with iNav or something like that, you don't have to worry about these servos, because that'll all happen through the flight controller. Anyway, as mentioned, this has been, inside here, the HappyModel EPW5 receiver, not that big word I said before, and was kindly supplied by Gaff at YourFPV. You'll find links down below, and if you're in the UK, definitely check him out, because it's nice to support your local hobby shops there. And there are a bunch of different companies doing similar sort of things. I think they're going to become a bit of a thing, but we'll see where ExpressLRS takes us and what else we might have. Anyway, I hope that review's been helpful. I hope you enjoyed my flying and crashing, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.